Yes, hello, I am James Rowlands, and today it's the Wnr338, and we are looking at NXT UK. We've got 8 huge episodes on the network, and Pat Patterson was the first one that we watched, January 24th. It was a life and legacy. This was brilliant. It was very apt to watch on the day I did, which was, of course, the Royal Rumble day, because obviously he created the event in itself. This is my way, the life and legacy of Pat Patterson. And there's a lot of information here. It takes us all the way back to Montreal, where he was raised and born in 1941. His name was Pierre Clement. He has 4 brothers and sisters. Age 16, started to train to become a professional wrestler, and Pat's family supported him. And then Pat talks about knowing that he was gay, first of all, and he didn't like girls that way. He then headed to San Francisco after his family kind of shunned him, where he talking outside the historic Cow Palace with WWE's for Super Bowl shows. Pat admitted to it, being gay, and the poet thought it was crazy for admitting. Pat said he ended up working there for 15 years. He formed a tag team with Ray Stephen, and we see Hulk Hogan popping up as a talking head. And then you see he's talking about the old Reigns tells him a story about Patterson versus Peter Maivia, beating one of the sweetest ones that we've seen, really, because, you know, Vince... there's a lot of stories out there of him being an arsehole or, not very nice, but you can just see the genuine relationship between the two and kind of what Pat Patterson means to him. I mean, he left a huge mark, and it is still difficult that he's gone. Vince loved him, and the wrestlers did respect him as well. We get February 14th, the WWE day of the Royal Rumble. Lovely tribute to Pat. Obviously, we talk about him creating the Rumble event. Edge worried about injuries. Christian making his comeback. Little did we know. We see some great backstage stuff. Blair winning the Rumble, and Flair, Triple H, and Montez with her saying that, she's a star now. Woods a New Day tribute with tears in his eyes, talking about, of course, Brody Lee. Speaking of the New Day, Big E, WWE 24, and again, this was another fantastic documentary. We see a lot of Big E's life here, of course, starting off playing American football, but of course injuries, stopping his dream, and then a kind of chance meeting with someone who knew JR. Said if anybody, maybe had the look, and he came into FCW at the time, whereas people like Seth Rollins and of course, Zayn, they were saying how this guy kind of just had that personality, and he wasn't just kind of this big, scary guy. And of course, up to his main roster debut with Dolph Ziggler, where he was kind of the heavy, and then moving on to the New Day. And I still remember the New Day vignettes. I mean, talk about Final Force. I love Big E, his personality, his ability to do multiple things. The early footage was brilliant in FCW. I remember the New Day vignettes. I mean, it's in shit got serious. We started talking about Black Lives Matter and everything like this. The Brody stuff was absolutely It was great, and I hope this time next year he is WWE World Champion. And then we get Sasha Banks on the Stone Cold podcast. She was always wanting to be a wrestler and to be the best. And when she came up with the boss character, Dusty was the only one who understood it. Banks, after Mania 32, thought she sucked, but Austin was there, and we actually see the footage of backstage and saying, no, you didn't suck, you did all right, after that fantastic triple threat match. She wasn't happy, and then, of course, walking away, Vince said you can have 30 days off. She took like 6 months off. Come back, and now it's kind of bigger than ever. And of course, coming back in the feud with Bayley, and it is absolutely brilliant now, the feud that they have in the match that finished off in Hell in a Cell. And of course, Sasha Banks now women's champion and going towards WrestleMania to face Belair. Move on to Goldberg at 54. Again, Big E at the start. I mean, he is so nice, saying to Bill, that I'm a huge fan, and Goldberg saying that you're actually killing it today. Old Bill said he's laughed at Flair wrestling in his 40s, and he's doing it now in his 50s. And back when he was younger, he didn't appreciate wrestling. He didn't live wrestling. You see a fantastic thing for 2000 as well, where he actually says it. Goldberg gets tortured by stretching muscles and announcing what you've got rather than trying to build new one. We see Gage, his son, work with him. 2016, as far as he was a kid, said he was flabby. Just don't push him too much, hugging his dad. In Vince, he has that relationship that Goldberg said everything's changed. He looks at Vince differently now. He pushed against it in 2004. And then we see highlights of the Rumble match against McIntyre. He says no one deserves it more than Drew does. And Billy's really humble. This is good stuff. But he says this is not the end. And of course, we know he has more matches left in him with his contract. And then WWE celebrating Stone Cold Week with documentaries, Broken Skull sessions, and more. And of course, as we know, it's 25 years since the Stone Cold Steve Austin character came about incredibly. And of course, we had March 16th, aka Austin 316 Day. And of course, now we see new documentaries and stuff like this. We got Meeting Stone Cold, where WWE superstars and legends record their first impressions of Austin. We see The Undertaker, Ric Flair, Booker T, Savio Vega talking about his great story of when the lights went out at Beware a Dog and they had to continue wrestling. But of course, the second match carried on as well, and the kind of birth of the Stone Cold character. And talking about the birth of the Stone Cold character, we've got the birth of the Stunner, and this was quite an interesting documentary. We'll get on to that in just a second. We got the W Best of Stone Cold and the new Broken Skull sessions with Randy Orton as well. Of course, we'll give that review as soon as it drops. We see the birth of the Stunner. It's only 14 minutes. Stone Cold narrating the clips, downs a drink for every Stunner you see on here. It's a drinking game now. We've got Booker, King, Regal, Savio Vega. Of course, Michael Hayes come up with the finish for the Stunner back in '94. He was injured, so as the move away lets his tag team partner take it. And of course now he moved to the WWF, and at that time Stone Cold was the ringmaster. It's amazing to think there's still new stuff about Austin to be made after everything that we've had. But the first Stunner versus Vega, June 23rd, and we talk about Austin adding the kick because before it was kind of more like a RKO setup, but now with a kick to the stomach, lowering the head, and then the Stunner. And of course, famous Stunners, Mr. McMahon, the first one, September of '97. Of course, Monday Night Wars and the worst Stunner probably ever taken. The Rock with the best Stunners ever taken, trying to hit that second or third rope. And of course, Scott Hall as well, the bouncer one at WrestleMania 18. He talks about beer drinking after shows as well, about when it was off the air, and every time someone took the beer from him, he'd always give him a Stunner. And Owens is nice to talk about how he asked Austin to use the move. And then finally Foley puts him over huge by saying, he had everything, including a great finishing move. But this felt more like a trailer. On to news, and Tyler Rex, and former WWE wrestler performed as Tyler Rex, has come out as transgender woman named Gabby Tuft. Tuft wrestled with Rex for WWE between 2008 and 2012, and is the first known WWE superstar to publicly come out as transgender. She discussed her transition in a Friday interview with Extra TV. She said, "This is me, unashamed, unabashedly me. This is a side of me that was hidden in the shadow, fear for what the world would think. Afraid of what my family, friends and followers would do or say. My loving wife, family and closest friends have accepted me for who I am. To them, I am forever grateful. I don't expect everyone to agree or understand. It's not my place to change any of your core beliefs. Just know that the outer shell may change, but the soul remains the same. I am no longer afraid and I'm no longer fearful. I can now say with confidence that I love myself for who I am." And fair play to you, Tyler Rex. I mean, long gone are the days when people make a joke about that. Be who you want to be. And if you're happy, like I said, fuck the rest of them as well. But talk about breaking hearts, and Teddy Hart has been arrested in the state of Texas. The 41-year-old, his real name is Edward Ellsworth Annis, is currently being held at the correction centre after being arrested on February 10th. The charges stem from an arrest in 2016. According to that, he was charged of evading arrest, injuring children, elderly disabled person, and possession of a controlled substance. Well, it's a bit of a shame for Teddy Hart because his career in '98, still a teenager, became the youngest person to be signed to the contract. He was sent to train with Dory Funk Jr., but by 2002 has been released. He was returned to W in 2005, and again from 2006 to 2007 in FCW. And over the years, he has stints with Ring of Honor, Major League Wrestling, AAA, and TNA. As well as stints on the independent scene. He's part of the legendary Hart family, cousins of Natalia and Davey Boy Smith Jr., but it's just never really worked out for him. We move on to arrivals, and the list of the size of the company's future global expansion plans on our latest evidence that the wrestling is a family business passed down from generation to generation. And today, WWE announced the latest of Nxt Uk, including Miko Satomura of Japan, Tony Gill of West Sussex, Metain Kogabakalu of Germany, and Bailey Matthews of Blackpool, England. They joined a crop of talent recently debuted on NXT, including Rampage Brown, Aaliyah James, Charles Samuels, and Ben Carter. And a little bit about each one. Miko Satomura, Lawler has been the best in the world. She was part of the 2018 Mae Young Classic where she faced Toni Storm in the semi-finals. Having founded Sonada Girls Pro Wrestling, she went on to huge success on the independent scene. Saw her become Progress Women's Champion. Anglo-Indian Tony Gill moved to Australia as a child before heading to Canada where he trained under Lance Storm. Following footsteps of the biggest Punjabi names in history, including the great Carleen Jinder Mahal, he's ready to make an impact in Nxt UK, bringing a combination of styles inspired by the likes of Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. Mifan Kokabasgulu represented its Turkish television company being residing in Berlin, Germany. The 6-foot powerhouse almost became UK champion for over 700 days, making the longest serving champion in all of WWE since Hulk Hogan's first WWE title reign from 1984 to 1988. Alright, we're going to move on to NXT UK, and we start with January 18th edition. We're back in the BT studios in London with Andy Shepherd and Nigel McGuinness. But first, Jordan Devlin for a promo. He claims to live his life to a high standard and wants to beat that standard, only for Trent Seven to interrupt him. Trent blows smoke up Devlin's rear, then offers him a challenge. He's going to trim down to 205 and get a shot. And if this leads to a Christian-style wacky vignettes, I'm all in. Trent benches Devlin out to end the segment and stands on the title belt as he promised to enter the division. This was good shit. We might get a less husky Trent. We see Eddie Dennis giving a Hunt a pep talk. He's banned from ringside late tonight. Kaylee Ray vignette time. She's still the longest reigning Nxt UK Women's Champ. She wants the best in the world. Step forward, Miko Satomura with footage from Progress, WXW, the Mae Young Classic and the girls. Yep, the rumour, and like we said, we have now confirmed it. Miko is in NXT UK. Backstage, Pretty Deadly are warming up, and then Ben Carter versus Sam Gradwell. 9 minutes of the show and some wrestling. Gradwell cuts a promo on his way to the ring, mocking Carter's PE shorts, reminding him he's from Jersey, so he's in the wrong place, and he's a yoghurt. I mean, I really do like Sam Gradwell. Gradwell promises to send Carter back to Jersey in a catamaran. There's some good stuff here. Some ground and power followed by Gradwell blocked, then at a springboard backflip into the eye of the Hurricane as a fog splash gets Carter his maiden win. This was a really good TV match with Gradwell, real gem on the mic, and more than handy in the ring. Carter was able to show more flashy stuff in there on his debut. This was a fantastic. Fan of both of these. Like to talk about you yogurt. Really good match. Both of these would work well on the main roster. I mean, Gradwell's got the look and the ability, and of course we know all about Ben Carter as well. We see the Welsh lads warming up back while Shah Samuels is chatting with Noam Dar. The one-time Ed Harvey is wrestling next, but first Oliver Carter and Ashley Smith needs to be shown warming up. And then it's Josh Morrell versus Shah Samuels. Josh has music and a brief entrance. Shah gets a proper entrance this time. Ground and pound from Shah follows, but a nice back body drop lock to shake up Morrell. Did a PK to the back. Morrell looks for a crossbody, but he's just dumped with a slam before Shah misses an elbow drop and a charge in the corner. A leg lariat from Morrell finds its mark, and he's fought back with chops and uppercuts. A drop kick and Stanley corkscrew moonsault almost puts Shah away. A hip toss into a pin gets Morrell ahead, but Shah dumps him with another lariat. Then a spine buster before the butcher's hook forces the submission. This is the Shah we want to see. Very mouthy and keeping the essence of being from the indies. More of this, please. This was brilliant. Nigel was asked about Shah changing his name. He just said, go for it. Sometimes you have to change. Just ask Kurt Angle. And then I dragging off that PC showing off his one-arm push-ups as random interview goes. Yeah. Apparently it wasn't a plan, but he's interrupted by Sam Gradwell, who's bouncing from one match to another. Backstage, same interview guy speaking to Rampage about new arrivals. You're interrupted by the Gallus lads. They all bump fists and issue a challenge to Joe Coffey. Walter has to be the destination, right? And then next week, Nina Samuels faces Brookside, and Jordan Devlin's open challenge returns. Up next is the elimination matches. Flash Morgan Webster, Mark Andrews versus Pretty Deadly, Lewis Howley and Sam Stoker versus Oliver Carter and Ashley Smith. Winner gets a shot at Gallus tag titles at some point to be determined. Webster gets a newish logo on his jacket that looks like that logo. Meanwhile, Paul Carter and Smith didn't get an entrance. Andrews and Stoker start first in this elimination match. Let's see how many pins get broken up. Andrews tags in for a step-up Rana off Webster's back, then a drop kick, but he wandered into the Pretty Deadly corner as Lewis Howley came in to steal a pin as Gallus watching from another part of the studio. Carter hits something akin to the inverted silly string on Andrews. We get a Tower of Doom, lots of bodies flying, the colours flash, and all 8 men are down. Gut wrench suplex from Smith tosses Stoker across the ring, but Stoker slips out of Fireman's carry found. Howley for the kick out, but back and forth roll up gets a 2. Carter's back as Smith propels him into a 450 splash for Stoker for another near fall. Stoker had enough and tags in Andrews. He hits a wheelbarrow bulldog to Carter, then chops Smith Webster blows himself in, Smith and Andrews on his shoulders. It's turned to a bicycle knee-assisted reverse ride on Smith as Webster gets the pin to make the elimination at 15 minutes 10, which leaves us with Pretty Deadly versus Andrews and Webster. Well, Webster tags in with Shadows over Malice, makes a save. Andrews takes care of Howley with a slingshot run onto the floor for Webster. Back body drops Stokely into Howley. Webster followed up with a second Shadows over Malice, senton bomb to the floor, while Andrews went for a dive and got jabbed in the knee by a chair from Eddie Dennis. That's why they're not mentioning the old injury. Howley and Stoke have Webster down on the floor, and it's easy pickers there with a heart attack net breaker for the win. This was rough at first, being too wild and fast. It was so good as a four-way, but we had an elimination that really picked up steam, and nobody broke anybody else's pins. New title contenders makes me happy, but Eddie Dennis running was far from subtle. Pretty Deadly stay at Gallus from across the studio, except it's only Joe Coffey in the box. The tag team champions need music and entrance so they can really stare down from the aisle. This was really good stuff. Another good episode. Move on to February 4th. And opening sequence, and then commentary opens with a bit of surprise and chat about how the pandemic is shaking everybody. First match is Brookside versus Nina Samuels. As usual, Samuels has a man carrying her bags and tells Brookside she should be doing just that. They start fast with Brookside taking her to the mat and then putting her on the arm as they back up. Samuels kicks her into the corner low. She sits on Brookside's leg, sitting on the chin lock. Making that an armbar, but Brookside fights up and slugs away. Running in the corner sets up a running face plant, and they head outside. Brookside kicks the steps by mistake, so Samuel falls a suitcase, a loaded purse, to knock Brookside silly for the pin. Posing and says she told her so. This feud is not over, but Nina impresses in this part. Jordan Devlin wants to know who he's facing tonight, but says Scala isn't sure. And then Scala talks to Jack Stars behind closed doors, and Stars doesn't look too thrilled. Looks like Scala's trying to find Devlin's opponent. And then Josh Morrell versus Joseph Connors. Connors says Ginny in his corner. The grapple exchange goes nowhere to start, so Morrell drop kicks him to the floor, where Connors needs to talk to Ginny. Back in, and Connors starts cranking on the arm for clothesline him down, trying for the flip out. The arm is snapped. Connors crucifixes him for two. There's a backbreaker again and hit the armbar. This one doesn't last long as Morrell fights up and increases the pace with dropkick. He then has to battle something up the top but gets run over again. And Netbreaker finishes it for Connors at 5 minutes. Is Connors really worth it? I mean, I'm not really sure. They're trying with a team, but right now they're acting like strangers to another. We get video on Charles Samuels, who calls himself the Butcher because he comes from a family of butchers. So Brookside wants a rematch with Nina Samuels and order Scarlett to get it done. The next match is Dragunov versus Tyson T-Bone. T-Bone promises to win during his entrance, and they charge at each other to start in a hurry. Some shots to the back have Dragunov in trouble, so he rolls over the key lock. Cues Sam Gradwell to watch from ringside and heckle Dragunov. Slam into a knee drop, keeps Dragunov down, and T-Bone suplexes it again. Gradwell says, "Your family is watching you, yogurt." And then Dragunov manages to knock him into the corner, but charges into a belly-to-back suplex. Half Nelson suplex puts Dragunov on the floor while Gradwell talks even more. T-Bone follows with some shots to the back, and Dragunov snaps to unload on T-Bone outside. They go back in, where Dragunov takes him down with it. The slow mental deterioration of Riot is one of wrestling's best stories right now. He sees Walter's face in his nightmares, and you know as soon as he gets hit in that match, there he is. Gradwell talking shit throughout. It was a chop across the back again that kind of turned dire, so we'd have to look at that. Post-match, Gradwell yells at Dragunov some more, saying he let his family down. "Do you need a cuddle?" Dragunov snaps and runs over the cameraman, but referees keep them apart before violence can ensure. What a match that will be. And then Mika said Memora is here next week, and some people are rather pleased. So Scala tries to find Devlin's opponent. We then get Joe Coffey versus Danny Jones. Coffey drives a tall Jones up against the ropes, but Jones slaps him in the face. Down. He then manages some shots to the face, including a jumping knee, but a belly-to-back suplex cuts him off. A sleeper staggers Coffey, but he's right back in with a running headbutt into the corner. All the best for the bells, finishes Jones in 2 minutes. Post-match, Coffey says if Rampage Brown wants to make a name for himself, he needs someone to hit him in the face really hard. Cue Brown to say anytime, anywhere. Well, this was a squash, but I just don't think Coffey has just got that kind of next level. Hopefully Brown can get the win in the match. And Gallus is ready for them. We get video of Eddie Dennis, Flash Morgan, Webster, Mark Andrews. They meet in a street fight next week. And here's Jordan Devlin for the main event. And Sculler's found him an opponent. It's just not for the title. It is Dave Mastiff, and non-title, of course. Devlin works on a wrist lock to start before switch to the early headlock. Running shoulder hits Devlin through, and Mastiff cartwheels away and drops a backsplash. A victory roll sends Mastiff to the floor, where Devlin and following only to get caught into a regal roll. Mastiff breaks the count but goes back to the floor, where Into the Void only hits and breaks the barricade. Devlin is still down, so Mastiff hits the top rope headbutt forward, with commentary losing it on a kick out. A drop kick to the leg takes Mastiff down again low, and there's a slingshot cutter to knock him silly. Devlin adds a 450 pin for the win. I mean, Mastiff really bought in this match. This was really good. The Irish Ace proving he belongs, and the similarities between Balor, but who cares when there's matches like this? Move on to the next episode, February 11th. The show opened with a video recapping the feud between Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster in the Hunt. This is a clip from earlier today where Andrews for a room with his Sculler running up at them. Webster and Andrews said they were tired of playing a numbers game and handed Sculler Wild Boar's mask. Boyd was being laid out to the floor. The main event street fight was changed to Andrews and Webster versus Primate and Eddie Dennis. Suttermore was shown walking through the backstage area where she was watched by Zaya Brookside, Sculler and Piper Niven for a match against Isla Dawn. And she dished out some leg kicks early on, then controlled Dawn with a headlock. Dawn did get some offense in, but was quickly wiped out as Kaylee Ray was shown watching a big glass window. Dawn hit a Northern Light suplex and followed with a running Meteora, and then went to the top rope, but she got thrown back down to the mat by a superplex. Dawn did hit Saito suplex for another 2 count, but Satomura came back with strikes, a spinning kick and a DDT. Satomura then followed with a Scorpion Rising as kind of step up axe kick for the pinfall victory. And after the match, Kaylee Ray posed with a title back behind the glass, and Satomura urged her to join her in the ring. Dawn didn't look bad, even though this is about getting over how respected and potentially dominant it will become. Great finisher, and Coffey met in the dressing room with a television. NXT UK General Manager Johnny Saint appeared on the screen and said that only people want to see a match between Brown and Coffey more than him, and fans in Brown and Coffey themselves. He made the match official for next week. Of course, Brown should come out on top, and then we get a video of Danny Luna airing, showing her workout with weights. Luna said it was good for him to enter the ring and know you were the strongest there. She said she wanted to be a better version of herself and learn to push yourself until you wanted. We get a video on Valkyrie airing where she said she would. And then Satomura cut a promo after a match Japanese included with Kaylee Ray. I am ready for you. We get Supernova sessions with Shah Samuels. Now introduced Samuels as his best mate. He would not let Samuels sit on a simple chair used for his guests, so they sat on the couch. He worked hard for 18 years to finally make it to the big stage. Now half the NXT UK roster wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his work. We wish Samuels had, which brought out Sid Sculler. It's great to see both guys in New York, and it saw both of them in Rev Pro 5 years ago. And then Samuels called Sculler to help and demanded to see Johnny Saint, but Dahl quickly de-escalated the situation and told Samuels that Sculler was in fact the general assistant manager. Darlin talks about how Samuels represent the heritage of the sport and told Sculler that Ed Harvey gimmick NXT UK initially gave to Samuels. Dahl suggested a Heritage Cup match with Samuels challenging A-Kid. Sculler said he would consider it. Nina Samuels sat in the backstage area and accepted Zia Brookside's request for a championship. And then Piper Niven, Male slapped Niven but got slapped back, dropped and wiped out with a running crossbody for a seated position. Niven kicked him in the corner, but Connors walked out and allowed Amir to attack Niven. She looked for a suplex but got hit with a headbutt followed by a somersault senton in the corner. Niven then hit the Piper driver for the win. Connors looked on from the entrance and slowly clapped. Niven was irritated. Niven still waits for a shot at the women's title. A video air focused on Gallus and Pretty Deadly, who will have their NXT UK Tag Team title match in 2 weeks. A highlight will be in action next week. Also, we get A-Kid versus Shah Samuels and Rampage Brown versus Joe Coffey. Our main event for this one loads a tag team street fight. Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster versus Primate and Eddie Dennis. Here we go. We see Andrews and Webster music play, but it did not come out. The camera went backstage and found Primate and Dennis beating down on both men. Andrews had been put through a table and they drove a production box into him. The Hills dragged Webster to the ring and the bell finally rang. Primate clashed into the corner, right out of the way. Dennis hit a slam on Webster for 2 count. Webster briefly went wild but got beaten with Dennis' belt to stop him with his tracks. Primate finally threw Webster over the barricade to help him, and Dennis slap him round. Andrew suddenly appeared on top of a huge production scaffold and hit a big moonsault, and Dennis and Primate. That was dangerous. Dennis Webster squared off, as did Andrews and Primate. Webster hit a somersault senton off the apron on Dennis. Hit a springboard clothesline on Andrews for the barricade. Steel chairs as they finally met inside the ring. Dennis took out Andrews' knee with a chair but got another shot blocked by Webster's helmet. Not that one. Webster whacking the former headmaster with it. Dennis took out Webster with a kendo stick, but he had an skewer from Andrews. Andrews hit a stun dog millionaire, went to the top, but Primate added his knee with a kendo stick. The Hills worked over Andrews' knee in the ring, targeting with chairs and submissions. Webster hit a running knee and Andrews completed the sunset bomb onto the floor. Dennis was alone in the ring, begging as Andrews and Webster joined him with kendo sticks. The back of Webster and Dennis were fed welts on the back of the kendo stick attacks. Andrews and Webster got the table from under the ring. They got Dennis on the table. Primate was looking to get back. Andrews took care of him, but the German suplexed him out of the ring for his troubles. Dennis rolled off the table. Webster hit a somersault senton in his back. Primate finally made the save and hit Webster with an explosion into the corner. Primate set a table up in the corner and Dennis went for a Severn Bridge, but Andrews made the save. Dennis went for a top rope Severn Bridge, but Webster turned it to a super hurricanrana. Primate got the pin for the table off of mid. After Webster went off the top with Andrews hitting a shooting star press on Primate, while Webster hit a 630 senton on Dennis. Andrews then pinned Primate to get the win. It's got a chance, go back and listen to that. Honestly, go back, go on the network, try and find it. It is absolutely brilliant. We move on to the 18th of March. No, we don't. Move on to the 18th of February. And Andy Shepard and Nigel McGuinness welcome fans to WWE NXT UK. We kick things off with NXT UK Heritage Cup Challenge. It's A-Kid the Holder versus Shah Samuels. Round 1, Samuels falls A-Kid into shoulder first towards the ring post. Samuels puts A-Kid in the crossface. A-Kid taps a few. Round concludes. So Shah Samuels gains a point for the first round. Round 2, A-Kid connects with a stiff kick and a dive through the middle rope, which looked great. That concludes the second round. Samuels is still in the lead. No new points were awarded in the round 3. A-Kid lands a beautiful super kick with a pinfall point on Samuels. And A-Kid and Shah Samuels are tied 1-1. Round 4, both men exchange low stiff kicks at the beginning of this round. Samuels floors A-Kid for only a near fall. A-Kid picks up the pace with an instant. Samuels kicks out. A-Kid gets caught mid-air with a massive slam for Samuels. Samuels goes for another pin attempt. A-Kid kicks out. He does it again. Same results. Samuels clutches on with a butcher hook. A-Kid looks like he's about to fade, but the bell saves him from tapping out. No new points added there. And then round 5, final round. Samuels looks for another butcher's hook submission. A-Kid escapes by the skin of her teeth. He hooks on a lethal armbar. Samuels has to tap out. And A-Kid earns a second point, therefore retaining the Heritage Cup. Charlotte's great, and even though he didn't leave with the cup, still gave a hell of a performance. I'm not sure about A-Kid. If you're struggling for personality in NXT UK, WWE might not work out, but still a great match. And we look ahead with a hype video before Joe Coffey and Rampage Brown's main event. We see a highlight reel of Walter's dominant reign in NXT UK that now equates to the former NXT UK champion Pete Dunne's title reign. Didn't think anyone would ever do that. And then we get Ben Carter versus Josh Morrell. Josh Morrell puts Ben Carter in the rear chin lock at the beginning of the match. Carter turns it with a side headlock. They reset. Morrell floats with a bow and arrow submission. Carter returns the favour on Morrell. He rolls over for another near fall at 2. Morrell scales the top. Carter throws him off with a springboard neck breaker before landing a frog splash. Carter hooks the legs on Morrell and picks up another victory. Your winner, Ben Carter. Both of the guys will be stars. Carter might be one in a generation talent. That's how good he is. Really good match. Next we see Sid Scala holding a press conference ahead of Kaylee Ray's NXT Women's Championship defense against newcomer Miko Satomura in 2 weeks. Miko says that it's been easy for Ray to capitalise on the longest women's champion because she has some easy challenges. Now she believes Ray had met a match, and that's why she asked for this one. She can teach Ray how to succeed in the industry. Ray states that she needs this match to prove her supremacy. John Luna powers into the corner to start and easily blocks the crucifix attempts. James gets tossed down again as a suplex sends it back into the corner. Luna's powerbomb is countered to the Hurricane on 2. Back in the hard clothesline. The forearm puts James on the apron. Luna catches the springboard without much effort. Luna firearm carries into a setup powerbomb for the pin in 3.5 minutes. This was a squash. We need to see a bit more. And then Ginny knows Piper Niven is looking for her. She says if Niven wants a match, all she has to do is ask. Next week, Pretty Deadly will officially challenge Gallus for the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. And now the main event. It's Rampage Brown versus Joe Coffey. Well, Coffey yells to Brown that this is his kingdom. Brown clocks him halfway during his statement. Coffey returns the favour with a low basement drop kick. Coffey puts him in another straight jacket lock-up. Brown escapes through a massive lariat and then slams him spine first onto the canvas. Coffey runs right into a big boot. Brown looks to put Joe away with a brainbuster. He hooks the leg, but Coffey stays alive with a kick out. Coffey creates some distance by throwing him over the shoulder, then charges towards Brown in the corner with a suplex, and then a pounce. He rushes towards Brown on the outside, but he manages to sidestep in time, and Coffey clashes right into the steel steps, causing some damage to his left arm. In the ring, Coffey has a hard time getting a hook on Brown. Brown connects with a Pele kick on Coffey's injured arm. Brown and sends him with a powerful doctor bomb, and he picks up the pinfall victory. Winner Rampage Brown. Folks, this is the first time Coffey has lost someone who's not NXT UK champion in NXT. What more can you do with him? Brown v Walter will be epic. Big man match would pay off. It's a nice sign of respect at the end as well. Move on to the next episode. It's February 25th. It's the title week around here. As Gallus is defending the tag team titles against Pretty Deadly in a match that seems set for a good while now. Gallus has held the titles since October 2019. We'll see what happens here tonight. We get a look at the title match as expected in the opening sequence, and then Zara Brookside versus Nina Samuels. The loser is the winner's servant for a month after Samuels cost her a few matches. As a preview, Samuels' bags are brought to ringside by Henry. Brookside jumps her to start, and the fight is on the hurry, with Samuels being wrapped around the top rope. Samuels bails to the floor and kicks Brookside with the bags for a 9 count. Back in, and Samuels grabs the rear head choke with body scissors. With that going nowhere, it's off to an armbar and then a surfboard, but Brookside flips over into a cover for 2. Neckbreaker gives Brookside the same. She knocks Samuels outside, and Brookside has been all nice here and hammers away on the floor, but Hurricane is easily blocked. Samuels isn't happy with Brookside beating the count and goes to grab the tablet from Henry. With Henry gone, Brookside kicks the tablet away and grabs a roll up for the pin in just under 6 minutes. I don't mind this Samuels gimmick, and Brookside has a hell of a lot of upside. It's a great face versus a good heel. It's an okay match with Zaya still learning. Samuels dominated the majority of it, and post-match reality sets in for Samuels and panicking. And Trent Seven is trying to get down to 205 pounds, but it's really hard. That includes running with dogs and snapping towels. This is brilliant, but the story may be affected by Devlin going back to America. And then Aya Dragunov isn't sure what he's been doing lately, but Sam Gradwell comes up for a challenge. Game on next week in a bit, yogurt. And then Bailey Matthews versus Tyler Bates. And this is 19-year-old Bailey's debut. You might have heard of his dad, William Regal. You can see by his looks. I mean, does he look like his dad? I mean, I'm not really sure. He's kind of got the curly hair, a little bit of sideburns. And he's going to go against he's probably number one guys in the entire roster in Tyler Bate. Well, Bate is in fantastic shape. There's no doubt about it. But you got to ask yourself the direction of him. Of course, former UK champion. Is he here just to help the young guys, young Matthews, or is he there to challenge for the title once again? Of course, his match with Walter at TakeOver was a classic to this day. Collar and elbow top to start, and that's Matthews able to snap straight down. And Bate now with a monkey flip, but Bailey's still got wrist control, and Bate just gets out of that beautifully. Uses a leg, now grabs the wrist himself, takes him down a collar and elbow tie up, and now it's Bailey with the arm. He rolls through now, looking for the Kimura. Now Bate using the legs, trying to get out of this. And he does, manages to get the arm, but Bate nice, back in the leg lock. And the head scissors now got him caught. Well, Bate managing to get out again. This is classic British wrestling, this is. On the mat, touch tights to each other. And Matthews again with another takedown. Now a variation of Donald stretch. And for 19, very technical proficient. Now a nice cravat there. And a cravat roll there as well. And Bate maybe underestimated his opponent. A big coming together. Matthews has got size as well. Bate now using his speed. Leapfrog, went for a hip toss and a nice backslide. Now Bate now back in the guillotine. There you go, first strike, cut the uppercuts. But Bailey now impressing himself. A gut wrench suplex. Now Matthews with a couple of uppercuts. And he's been in control the majority of this match. Taking Bate down, and as he came running in, maybe a bit of experience from Bate using an up kick. Now he's got up an explosive suplex. A nice kip up as well. And a running moonsault splash. No, Bailey's still in this one. Now picks him up. Airplane spin, but Matthews doesn't let that attempt last too often. Rolls him up. No, Bate though managing to roll out of it. Into a pinning combination of his own. No, just out. Bate telling him to bring it. Matthews wants to fight. Uppercut, but the heel by Bate. And now Bate's got him in position. Tyler driver 97. 1, 2, 3. Bate wins. But Bate knows he was in a fight there. You can see the face after he gets a pin as well. Hell of a match. And Bailey Matthews, what a debut. Take a bow, son. And Bate now clapping Matthews, offering a hand. Lovely. Now I think Bate looking at Matthews saying there's a star there. I mean, Bate's only 23 himself. Matthews only 19. But Bate gets the win and we move on. We'll get a vignette from someone debuting from Berlin whose name isn't given. The word Divam Edek come on screen, which apparently means coming soon in Turkish. More on this later, though. You might already know him better, a kid. And then Piper Niven jumps Joseph Connors, but Ginny comes in from the save. Niven wants to face him in a handicap match, but Cisco says no. With that not happening, Niven grabs Jack Stars, and we seem to have a mixed tag. And then Elena Austin versus Ife Valkyrie. Or Ife Valkyrie. I mean, it's spelled Aoive. There's no way it's Ife. But they go with exchange wrist locks and start. Valkyrie spinning out, taking her down with the arm. Some kicks the legs, having Austin down, but she trips Valkyrie down for a charge. There's a running basement drop kick to give Valkyrie pounds away. Running net breaker gives Valkyrie 2, and Austin's small package gets the same. Valkyrie unloads in the corner, nails a spinning heel kick, followed by a top rope axe kick for the pin in 4 minutes. So, I mean, they built her up as a top contender. This is an okay match, but I did zone out a bit. I preferred Austin to Valkyrie, actually, in this one. And Valkyrie is pleased with a win, but here's Nina Samuels going the bags, looking like she's a breakdown. And then Kelly Williams and Ashley Smith need to train to get the tag team titles. We get a video on Kaylee Ray versus Miko Satomura, and then our main event team titles, Pretty Deadly versus Gallus. Well, Gallus held the titles, like we say, since October 2019. But Lewis Howley and Sam Stoker, it's their biggest match in NXT UK. Well, Mark Coffey's going to start. He gets caught. See Sam Stoker starting, but Pretty Deadly going to take their time. Wolfgang gets a tag. There's a couple of things about Pretty Deadly I don't mind. I mean, their trunks are so annoying. Kind of long pink trousers doesn't real ill-fitting as well. And Wolfgang looks to be upset. He maybe got out-wrestled a little bit there by Howley. Howley tags in Stoker after a nice forearm, but he gets taken down. And it's Wolfgang controlling the early going with Gallus. A nice double team to Howley, and a Pretty Deadly got to try and recuperate here. They've got to regroup, maybe. They're in a bit over their heads, but Gallus looked confident so far. That was nice by Howley with a nice hip toss. Runs into Coffey, and again it's Gallus who seems to be coming out on top at the moment in time. Nice quick tags with Wolfgang. But there you go, nice double team there. Wolfgang was going to come running in. Stoker saved his partner. And now Pretty Deadly with the double arms. Wolfgang trying to fight both men off. Howley helping out Stoker. Now it's faced off between the two teams. Referee needs to get a little bit of control here. And Wolfgang's got hold of Stoker, sends him across the ring. Stoker's desperate to get that top turnbuckle off. And a distraction there by Howley. Oh, Wolfgang sent into the ring post. And that looks like they now are going to be in control. Backbreaker. And now they're picking them apart. You see, cutting off the ring. This is good tag teaming for these two young men. And Stoker holding Wolfgang wide open for Howley. Wolfgang in all sorts of trouble now, being worked on in the corner. Can he create some separation and get the tag? And it looks like every time he does, he gets pulled back in the corner. But Wolfgang won't stay down. And again, you can see the two men talking to each other as they're making frequent tags. Stoker now grabs the back of Wolfgang. Then Howley capitalise. And Howley now just putting a big man on top turnbuckle. And Wolfgang with a splash, just squashing Howley. Now Wolfgang, can he get to Joe Coffey? Howley trying to stop him. Oh no, Stoker in, and that's brilliant tag team getting in between him and his partner. But Wolfgang just tosses him off. Not in that way. And tags in Mark Coffey. Pretty Deadly couldn't get there in time. Now the hot tag. And Mark Coffey, baby. Few shoulder blocks to both men. And Howley caught with a half-full Nelson slam. A huge suplex to Stoker. Howley in all sorts of trouble. Uppercuts in the corner. Huge clothesline. This is tag team champions this amount of time. Bulldog off the second. But Howley, to his credit, gets his shoulder up at 2. And a huge Russian leg sweep now. And Mark kept wrist control, rolled over. And Mark Coffey now picking up Howley. And Howley with a lovely sunset flip. Coffey gets out. Howley makes a tag. Sam Stoker in, but he gets caught. And a back suplex. I think the only difference between both teams at the moment, if you look in Pretty Deadly's corner, Howley is there. In Gallus's corner, Gang's nowhere to be seen. Now Stoker and Coffey trying. Nice tag there, blind. Mark didn't see it. Gets caught with a boot. Howley threw him into Stoker. Knee breaker. No. And it's this Pretty Deadly's moment. No, huge kick there by Mark Coffey. Wolfgang back on his apron now. Gets a tag. And Gallus might be looking to the end here on Pretty Deadly. Got him up with slingshot. Howley up onto Coffey. A Samoan drop. Wolfgang off the second. Moonsault. 1, 2. Stoker at the last possible second, breaking up the pin. Sam Stoker on the apron. Can't avoid Wolfgang. Mark Coffey just sends him into the apron. Hardest part of the ring, but Howley with the roll up. Not like that. And he tried to leapfrog Wolfgang, but Wolfgang speared him down. But maybe didn't hook the leg, and that cost him. But now it looks like it's Gallus. We're going to end it here. Wolfgang picking him up. Here comes Sam Stoker. He gets dropped with a forearm. Howley low with a nice clothesline to Mark, and he'd get clotheslined out by Wolfgang. Stoker ring. Howley's a legal man. And a slap by Stoker sends Wolfgang crazy. Wolfgang's chasing him down, but Howley back elbow, sending him over the barricade. And now Mark Coffey's left alone. Can Pretty Deadly capitalise? Howley tags in Stoker. Big back elbow dropped by Mark Coffey. Mark knows he's by himself. But a facebuster double team variation. And that couldn't keep him down. But there's a glint of Pretty Deadly. They got a tag title belt. And Sam Stoker's got one, so has Howley. But he misses his shot. Oh, but Sam Stoker DDT on the title belt. Coffey might be in trouble. The loaded gun has been disposed of. Sam Stoker picks him up. Netbreaker into the cover. 1, 2, 3. And we have new NXT UK champions in Pretty Deadly. The historic reign of Gallus is over. And now Lewis Howley, Sam Stoker are the NXT UK tag team champions. I can't believe it. The future looks pretty deadly here in a tag team division in NXT UK. What a great match. I mean, Gill teams, they really brought it, and Pretty Deadly. I tell you what, they impressed me. I mean, they're annoying in a good way. They brought it in this match. And Gallus, you know, what else can be done with them? Tag team champions for so long, but aggressive and a great main event for NXT UK. Oh, Nigel's calling on it as well. Absolutely brilliant. He says there's tears in the eyes of Pretty Deadly team champions. But we move on to March 4th. And I've got to say, NXT UK theme is kind of growing on me. It's time for a special show with a huge main event. This week's women's title match is on the line as Kaylee Ray defends against Miko Satomura in what sounds like a final boss fight, because that's an awesome, appropriate nickname. We're going to get to it, but first off, I mean, talk about how big the main event is. Let's start with a tale of the tape. Well, Kaylee Ray, height 5'6", signature moves, the Gory Bomb and a Swanton Bomb. Her styles aerial, technical, her debut 2009. She is the longest for 151 days, former ICW Women's Champion as well. Mora Heights 5'2", signature moves, Death Valley Bomb, Scorpio Rising, style Joshi Puriso, her debut 1995, accolades, former Progress Women's Champion, former World of Stardom Champion, WWE Nitro debut, age 17. Pretty incredible for both women there. We get an opening promo video full of women's title match as well. The Sasha Banks, Tony Storm, Bayley, all talking about Mika Satomura. And we got our first match, which is Sam Gradwell vegging off. Gradwell gets a slap in the face and dodges away, only to get taken to the mat with a head and arm clutch. That's broken up with Gradwell going for an arm, but walking straight into a big bipper, but he's still out top and knock him to the floor. Back in, and Gradwell gets 2 offer shots to the face, but has to check his busted mouth. The butterfly suplex sets up a chin lock, but Juggernaut fights up and stares him down. A hard headbutt rocks Gradwell and sets up the rolling German suplexes to rock Gradwell again. The top right backsplash looks to set up a Topodia Moscow, only to hit and explode. Dragunov is fine enough to slip out a fireman's carry low, and the hard elbows to Gradwell's head are good for a stoppage. Sam does make me laugh, and I love this story via just losing his shit and absolutely beating him up. Post-match, Dragunov keeps on loading with the elbows till referee reverses his decision. Dragunov goes after the referees before snapping back to reality and looking at his hands. Dragunov is near tears as own. I like both of these guys. It was a hard-hit match. Sam bleeding from the mouth, eye losing his shit. He's playing it brilliant because he's not actually in control. And Gradwell smirking. And then Tiermann, Lucky Kid, tells us that his name is Tiermann and he is coming next week. I like it. And Zaya Brookside as Nina Samuels Bringer and Aaliyah James and apple and tea. Nina spikes the tea, but Brookside takes the wrong one, meaning the frustration grows again. And it's time for Supernova Sessions with Niall Dar, who reads some nice statements about himself. Tyler Bate is a guest this week, and Dar mocks him for looking young. Bate is proud of his accomplishments and mentions being a vegan. Therefore, Dar has a gift for him, a lot of broccoli and some lettuce, which Bate enjoys, but Bate doesn't take it because you only lose when you don't do. Dar says Bate should face Dave Mastiff next week, which Bate will do, assuming it's under Heritage Cup rules. He's a no one's doormat, and he wants that funky music played. Thoughts on this? I love Noam Dar, and Bate is now kind of a guru character. Ben Carter was trained at Performance Centre this week and talked about how awesome it is. We get video on Leah James, who was inspired by Melina and Mickey James. Isla Dawn is using a Luigi board, crystal ball and tarot cards for an unexplained ring. And then we get Kenny Williams and Amir Jordan versus Oliver Carter and Ashton Smith. Williams rolls away from Carter's wrist, looks to start, and they miss a few charges each. Smith comes in to run Williams over and takes him down with a judo throw. Back up and a crossbody sets up a headlock, but it's off to Jordan in a hurry. This goes badly for him as well, as Smith forearms him to the head, followed by Carter dropping him face first onto Smith's raised boots. Running clothesline gives Smith 2. It's back to Carter for some face kicks. Jordan manages an insecurity low and a hot tag brings in Williams to clean house. A code red gives Williams 2 on Smith. The everything breaks down. Williams with Jordan hits stereo, dives on the floor. Williams down with a face plant back inside. Carter flicks Smith into a 450 for 2 on Jordan, while Williams making the same. Williams dives onto Smith and it's Jordan trading roll-ups with Carter. With Jordan in trouble, Williams turns a roll-up over and Jordan gets the pin. So Kenny wins the mid. Jordan beat Oliver Carter and Ashley Smith. The story was Kenny sick of teaming with Jordan, who has suffered an injury, been put on the mirror into possible situations, but still coming out the other end. But now teaming, well, until, appreciate Smith can't wear the same colours, but come up with a team name. We get a video on Ginny Joseph Connors versus Piper Lim and Jack Stars. Piper wants to fight them both on her own, but had to get a partner, so Stars is filling in for the first time ever in the mixed NXT UK history. And Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams are happy with their win and ready to keep going against Flash Morgan, Webster, Mark Andrews next week. And then it's the women's title matches, Kaylee Ray versus Miko Satomura. We've just had the entrances. Miko grabs the arm and just kicks Kaylee Ray down. Well, we see members of the NXT UK women's roster. We're seeing watching on the screens in the background. Satomura worked over Kaylee Ray. The champ came back with a drop kick and a roll through snapmare and followed with a stiff kick to the chest for Satomura. Satomura looked at an SDF and made it to the ropes to break the hold. Satomura walked over the legs but managed to come back with a face-first suplex and a Koji clutch. Kaylee Ray then followed with a kneeling abdominal stretch. After doing some kicks in the corner, Kaylee Ray reached a turning point in the match and she managed to take Satomura's legs and hit a draping DDT on the outside for the mats of the ring. So Kaylee went for a gory bomb on the apron, but Satomura escaped and instead hit a Death Valley bomb onto the apron. Kaylee Ray barely made it in the ring in time. Satomura hit a cartwheel knee drop on Kaylee Ray's back and then hit a Saito suplex for a close near fall. Kaylee Ray managed to come back from the out the corner, then locked in the Koji clutch once more, but Satomura turned the hold into a pin attempt for 2. Kaylee Ray held onto the hold until Satomura got a foot on the bottom rope. Satomura managed to kick Kaylee Ray's head as she headed to the top rope and then wrenched her up for another near Death Valley bomb for a very close near fall. After a brief struggle on the top rope, Satomura went for a frog splash from the top, but Kaylee Ray got her knees up, which looked to also hurt Kaylee Ray's knees. Kaylee Ray hit the gory bomb, but she was slow to make the cover and Satomura kicked out. She then looked to pick Satomura up, but her knees buckled under. Kaylee Ray literally dragged herself to the top, hurt knee and all for a somersault center, but Satomura evaded. Kaylee Ray blocked Satomura's scorpion kick and went for another gory bomb, but Satomura countered and destroyed a powerbomb for another near fall. Kaylee Ray escaped for another Death Valley bomb. She hit a super kick but got wiped out with a pellet kick for Satomura a split second later. Kaylee Ray turned another Death Valley bomb attempting to crucifix for the 2 count. They managed to hoist Satomura up for the powerbomb position, which she used to transition into a Fiery Goro bomb for the pinfall victory. Kaylee Ray then helped Satomura beat where the 2 women bowed to each other and hugged. Satomura was in tears over her loss. Go out of your way to watch the main event, which is a fantastic strong-style Joshi battle. Kaylee Ray is the upper echelon of female talent in WWE. Basically has to turn babyface now as fighting champion to beat all challengers, including the best in the world, even overcoming injuries. The logical path for the next challenger seems to be undefeated Ife Valkyrie, but we see what happens. I reckon Piper Niven deserves her chance to finally become champ. What a match that was. Move on to March 11th as it's back for the BT Sports Studios. As Andy Shepherd and Nigel McGuinness are buzzing over the mixed tag main event. We get Heritage Cup rules, Tyler Bate versus Dave Mastiff first. Bate's still looking to find himself, so we're getting a Heritage Cup format. Round 1 we get going as Mastiff takes Bate to the ropes. For a wrist lock held onto as Tyler tried to escape it. Bate hits some shoulder charge, but Mastiff hits an arm whip to break free as they closed out. Another lock up sees Mastiff hand to defend a wrist lock as Bate tries to the mat. Mastiff counters with a wrist lock of his own and rolls Bate to the mat. Tyler rolls free and comes back with a side headlock, throwing in some boots to the head before Tyler rebounds, Sunset flips out the corner, makes it 1-0 second round. Round 3, Bate tries to sting Mastiff with kicks to start, but Mastiff cuts him off with elbows. Tyler replies with elbows of his own and a diving uppercut off the middle rope for an exploder blocked. Instead, Tyler hauls up Mastiff, but ends up taking a crucifix bong as Mastiff levels at 1 minute of the third. Round 4, Bate gets a bad back, not helped by Mastiff with Bill throw across the ring, but Mastiff isn't staying on top of Tyler and continues to play with his prey, hitting a series of slams before a powerbomb and Ice got the win. Tyler got shoulder up, so Mastiff hauls him up for a Finley roll, with Tyler rolling to the outside for a breather. Round 5, Mastiff gets caught with big boot as he went for Bate, followed by some downs and elbows. Bate kicks those away and then cuffs the ropes, only for Mastiff to catch him. Bate gives out again before we get an airplane spin and a diving right hand before Bate went up top for a spiral tap to 32 of the 5th round. Would it kill someone to win 2-0? Mastiff not pouncing on bait at the end continues the trend that sees him continue to lose from winning positions. It's a good match, but we need direction for Tyler Bate. Dave is a guy to beat, not the guy. And then promo time, Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster and Kenny Williams and Mia Jordan went to spin tonight's tag match into the top contenders match. The Kenny Williams is turning signs, looks like it's still a flashing. And then we get video time and Ife Valkyrie's fighting a battle from within as she's apparently sabotaging herself. She's still undefeated. And then we get Danny Jones versus Tiermann making his debut. Tiermann takes down Jones in an armbar, then keeps him there with a wrist lock as Jones backs him to the corner. There's no clean break. Tiermann slaps him, then lands a low dropkick on the Welshman. Jones tries to mount a comeback, but Tiermann hits him in the ribs, then lands a running forearm that looks to KO Jones. Rather than pick him up, Tiermann rubs his boots into Jones and stretches him with a double armbar surfboard. Jones fights to his feet and reverses a hold, but Tiermann straight into the ropes. Another breaks it, but Jones hits back to keep himself in it before a low dropkick spins Jones down. Tiermann heads up top and hits a missile dropkick to the back. A stomp to the back follows two, and another before a crossface forces a quick submission. This is very brief, but established Tiermann as someone who has a game plan. Work the back, then wrench it with a crossface. Not a great entrance, but I quite like the walk. He's a 12-year vet. He's Turkish-German. And slaps to were fresh. Reminds me a bit of Andrade, who's asked for his release recently. We'll get more of that story soon. Back to the match. It was an okay debut. Well, Nina Samuels was called upon Zaya Brookside to clean up her hotel room, wash his dishes, even though Zaya had a dishwasher. I mean, at least doing some Williams comedies a bit light. Eddie Dennis vignette time. He's mad at Wild Boar for weakening the pack and forcing Eddie to face the consequences. Eddie replaced him with Tyson T-Bone as the Hunt had a substitution to the pack. Boar had knee surgery. Explains all this from perspective. Vignette time, they're putting a spot on the mail this week. I get the feeling they're planning something big given how much a reminder got signed. And Gallus are at a closed snooker hall because COVID. The liquor and wounds now are no longer on top. And then Kenny Williams and Mia Jordan versus Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster. Webster and Jordan are heavily taped up. We start with Williams and Webster. An open lockup goes nowhere, so Webster goes after Williams' arm and rings it. The wrist lock takes down a Scotsman, frustrating Williams, who comes back in with an ankle pick. Webster breaks the ropes as Williams then resumes with a snapmare for a blind tag. Andrews ahead of a step-up dropkick off of Webster's back. And Mia Jordan comes in but gets dropkicked to the outside as a player regroup. And then Webster tries to cut him off, but counters lead to Jordan being knocked off the apron by accident for a heads-up headbutt from Webster on the rebound. Laverick for Williams gets both men down. Williams gets frustrated at Jordan not being able to tag in and almost loses to a small package. Williams heads into the corner and unsights referee, allowing him to hit a mule kick before a snapmare driver to get a win. As soon as that, Webster and Andrews look to be heading down. A tag team title scene for the being, but all is not well with either. Rankings would work at NXT UK, I think. I think that would definitely work. I mean, obviously not going to do it because of AEW. I love this. They told quite a few stories in this. It's great matches with a little nuances. I Dragon off video recap saying that he's losing it all the time. He speaks next week. Then Trent Seven tells us the Cruiserweight title Wayne is going to be on WWE's bump next week. He's got Tyler Bate helping him to train him, but with Jordan Devlin on full fat NXT taking up Tansan Escobar, has this perhaps tipped the result of the match? And then we get a vignette and Ben Carter getting a new name. Nathan Fraser, he's got new gear too. I'm guessing he's a big fan of Viscera. I don't know, but you get tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Anyway, different, just generic name. Next week, Walter makes a statement. Our main event is Jenny and Joseph Connors versus Piper Niven and Jack Stars. The entries start with 6 minutes left in the show, so this has to be going into overtime. Jenny and Niven start, but of course Jenny's not doing anything, so tags in Connors. That means Stars automatically comes in. He's taken down for a 1 count before Cravat keeps Stars at bays. Stars escapes and works over Connors' wrist to head down. A leg sweep and back sent on. Manages to get Piper in, who then attacks. Takes Jenny out, who then tags out. A tag brings in Niven, but Jenny starts a Benny Hill chase and gets charged down by Niven. Piper throws Jenny around and lands a diving splash for a 2 count, but Jenny comes back with some right hands, then gets decked with a headbutt. That knocks her back in the corner with Connors tagging back in. He mouths off and gets slapped by Niven, and then throws into Exploder for Stars, setting up for a pair of cannonballs, which fed into a Piper drop. Niven press slam Stars onto Connors from there, and that's a win. Jack Stars wins a main event. 2 rarities in 1. Connors, thoughts on this? Connors is doing his best Regal impersonation in his manner. Oh gosh. A lot of that we did with Piper because she was a hot tag and the biggest star in the match. Stars and Pipe celebrate as we go off the air. They didn't mention last week's women's title match once. NXT UK needs to be longer. I never thought I'd say this about a show, but they're trying to cram so much in to an hour. It should be like an hour and a half, 2 hour show. Really, really entertaining. Like Impact using vignettes to help the stories as well. And speaking of British talent, of course, the second round of the NJPW New Japan Cup has continued. And earlier today, Will Ospreay defeated Zack Sabre Jr. Of course, we'll be catching up with that with Monty down at some point. Of course, the winner of that faces Kota Ibushi at Sakura Genesis. Last episode of NXT UK, 18th of March, it's Devlin versus Seven. We open with clips from weighing, with Devlin weighing in at £195 and Seven at £204.25. So just over 24 hours notice, we get a title match. And it's back to BT Sports Studios, and Andy Shepherd and Nigel McGuinness are on call for Nathan Fraser versus Ashton Smith. Of course, Fraser, the former Ben Carter, making his debut in the name. A shotgun drop kick via Smith in the corner, head of some boots. The coast-to-coast drop kick for near fall before Smith avoids the back senton. And Eddie wins with a Blue Thunder bomb. From the reverse, DDP Fraser counters and hits a springboard moonsault into the eye of Hurricane for the Frog Splash gets the win. Frog Splash for the finisher. I mean, there's been many a great one. And we get a decent for a TV match, but the New Day hasn't brought any fresh dominance as Smith took a lot in that match. Might have preferred Ben Cartwright over Fraser, but WWE now, of course, own it. Then Dragunov as a promo backstage. He apologises for recent behaviour, but gets interrupted by Sam Gradwell, you yogurt, who gloats about the win and talks himself into a no DQ match, for once speechless. At vignette time, Isla Dawn is still playing with candles and Ouija boards. They announced NXT UK Prelude on April 8th. So not quite a takeover special. Where have I heard that name? Oh, that's right, here when we do AEW Prelude to AEW as well. So fair play, WWE. We then get a Johnny Saint, Tennis Lion Dar's been asked for a title match for Akid, but he needs to beat Tyler Bate in a Heritage Cup match at Prelude to get the shot. We get a promo time for Seven versus Devin. And then Dana Luna versus Miko Satomura. Surprisingly, these two have met under the Progress banner with Miko bit Danny in a title match in October 2019. That's aeons ago. Satomura's side headlock is broken up by Danny, but more kicks takes Luna to the corner, head of running forearm. Upkick drops Luna for a 2 count, but suplex so Luna ahead. Danny hits with a full-way slam, but can't avoid a spinning heel kick as Satomura drops her. Luna cuts Satomura into the corner, back in the kicks, and they both trade strikes. A clothesline from Danny lands a near fall, but Miko took down Danny with a bicycle kick, following with a Scorpio Rising for the win. Not a bad match. I guess a rematch with Kaylee Ray will happen, or be a stepping stone. Well, Ginny has a vignette moaning how Piper Niven broke the rules, so she discounts the loss last week because of Niven hitting a Piper Java to Connors. The feud is continuing. It's going to be Stars versus Connors in a singles match. They show Devlin winning the NXT Cruiserweight title, Wells Clyde in January 2020, and then stuff happened. You got 2 cancelled fights. During the break, Dana Luna approached. She shrugged off inevitable loss as Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster bought her a ring jacket and some water. And speaking of water, he is next. He was on Full Fat NXT last night. We got to say here, well, he gets golf clap. He runs down a list of names he's beaten, and he's here for competition. Walter asked Johnny Saint to find a new challenger for him, and that's the cue for Rampage's music. Rampage comes out for a ropes. He stuck his foot under it. A comedy shout, but it was meant to be important. And Trent goes for another 7 stars, but referee breaks it up as Devlin thumbs Trent's eyes for a Devlin inside gets the near fall. I thought that was it at that point, without a doubt. And then Devlin heads up top again for a 450 splash to Seven's back, and that is it. This is more about Seven losing weight than winning the belt, like we said. But what a match this was. Great match. Chops are vicious. And at a takeover, as an opener, that would have taken the roof off them. So that is it for NXT UK. Next time, NXT UK, April 4th. Then, of course, a prelude will add to TakeOver as well. So we'll have the huge NXT UK title match of Volta versus Rampage Brown with Stand and Deliver. But until then, don't forget our follow of the week is Matthew W. We're across all social media, Twitter at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR JR. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, across the Google platform. Send us an email to WNR Podcast at gmail.com, and YouTube, WNR Podcast. Podcasts go at the same time, and YouTube is do SoundCloud on your phone, and also Spotify and iTunes, where you can download, subscribe, rate, and review there. So that is it. Our next episode will be WWE Fastlane. It's the last stop on the road to WrestleMania. But until then, I've been James Rowlands. Thanks for listening, everybody, and bye.